Johnny Got His Gun is centers on a soldier in World War I, Joe Bonham, who has been hit by an artillery shell and is lying in a hospital bed.
An innocent, sort of a farm boy type, all-American, has no political views, believes in the America that he has come to know. And he is called to World War I, and he is caught by an artillery shell, which destroys his body, makes him what they used to call at the time a basket case. He has no arms or legs, can't see, hear, speak.
He has nothing except his mind. The only thing that functions is his mind. And so he is left in that kind of truly frightening limbo where you are alive, but you have none of the things, none of the senses that we would normally rely on.
But his mind is alive and it's active, and he begins to understand his environment, and he has to find ways to tell time and ways to break through to the world, because he is lonely and desperate and terrified.
And he literally learns to communicate with the outside world by tapping his head. The film itself is actually not the story of those injuries or the story of the wounds, but rather the story of the hero inside, the soldier who remains, trapped within the shell of that body.
The story is his journey, the journey of his spirit to, one, figure out the geography of where he is, learn how to tell time, and ultimately to communicate.
The story is of his eventual triumph, being able to break through by using Morse code, and then, of course, he is ignored in terms of what he wants, which is to become an example to others, that he should be taken around to city and village and town in order that people can see what the result of war is.
The war had been a big part of my family because my father had been a prisoner of war of the Japanese in World War II and a survivor of the Bataan Death March. I was about to come of draft age, and I was going to have to sign up for conscientious objector status, and somebody gave me a copy of Johnny Got His Gun to read. And like most people, I read it in one setting, and it changed my life. In college, I decided to write a draft of the piece and took it to New York, and while I was doing other shows in New York, I gave it to a friend of mine, and she read it. She was an agent in New York at the time. And she said, "You need to get this to Jeff Daniels." And so I took the script and I went to the stage door of the theater where he was performing 5th of July. And I left it for him. And I think within a few days, he called me and said that he'd read the script and he loved the script.
We really didn't set out to make a movie. I always say that I accidentally made a film. In this particular instance, initially I was going to direct the stage play upon which the film is made. And when I went to Lincoln Center to view an archival tape of the 1982 production, which had starred Jeff Daniels at Circle Repertory Theater in New York Off-Broadway, I found out, much to my dismay, that particular recording was destroyed, or part of it, a good third of it was gone. And so we decided that we wanted to make a new video production.
I first met Rowan when he was working at the Falcon Theater in relation to the production of a play that I had written concerning my father. And later he called me, and this was months, maybe a year, maybe a little longer, and proposed the idea that of doing the play Johnny Got His Gun as a film. And I thought about it briefly, actually, and said sure.
When Rowan came to me with the idea of filming the play, at first I had thought that he wanted to do a more naturalistic version of the piece. I didn't realize that he actually wanted to film the one-person show. So I was excited by that possibility because it was going to be an interesting way to try and combine the power of two worlds, theater, but also film. And unlike some great American performances pieces where the camera is basically the audience watching the action. This was going to be a piece where they were going to edit and being able to have camera movement and lights and special effects. And so I was really excited by that possibility.
I was very particular about the actor I was looking for. The film takes place in World War I. I really needed to have an actor who could look as though he just stepped off a battlefield in World War I. But yet, much as the book is still read by students now, I would love ultimately if we created a film, the goal was to create a film that 10, 15, 20 years from now people would watch and it wouldn't feel dated. So I needed someone with very much of an everyman quality who, literally had a classic kind of look about him. I also wanted very much of a Midwestern look. If I could have blue eyes, that was something I felt was important. And Ben McKenzie really had all of the qualities, so I felt very strongly, in fact, once I met Ben, I was adamant that if we couldn't get Ben to do the film, I really didn't want to do the film. I felt that strongly about he being the correct actor for what it is I wanted to create on camera and with the play.
When Rowan approached me about doing the project, he brought along a copy of the book, I think also a copy of the play, the adapted play of the book, and sort of gave me a little pitch. And I took those materials home with me, and as soon as I read the book, I felt like, this was something that I wanted to do.
The production process was fairly simple. We shot in 4.5 days, which is a little bit misleading because Ben and I had actually rehearsed for 2 weeks, almost 2.5 weeks really, over a 3-week period of time. So we really had a good opportunity to spend time with the material and to work on it.
I was mildly freaking out maybe a week or two before, but by the time we actually got there, I felt pretty good.
The rehearsal that I first saw with Ben, that my wife and I saw, was very interesting to me because I hadn't seen the play done with the physicality that he brought to it, and the quickness that he had physically, which I thought was a very interesting way of doing it.
We shot Johnny Got His Gun in a small black box theater, which was terrific. I haven't done theater in a while, so it was really nice to be able to do something that was purely, in its essence, purely theatrical, and remind myself of what that skill set is when you're performing a play as opposed to performing on camera, and to really challenge myself in the most kind of brazen way by it being a one-man play where you don't get to rely on anything. You don't get to rely on any other actors. There's minimal sets, minimal lighting. It's basically just a guy on stage talking, which is terrifying.
When I came onto set, it was really nice because I had heard about Ben McKenzie, but I hadn't actually seen him on the screen. And one of the first things I thought of is how much he looks like Jeff Daniels, a young Jeff Daniels. And then watching Ben McKenzie bring it to life once again, and now in a way that people can see it in their homes and soldiers can see it. I think it's really exciting.
Post-production on the film was actually really a little bit more difficult than the pre-production or the actual production itself. The film is very unusual in the sense that obviously very unique in terms of it's one actor for 77 minutes by himself with a bench and a chair. The lighting was more of a theatrical nature as opposed to cinematic. It was really sort of marrying the two of those. By nature of its beast, theater lighting is shot from above, whereas in film we shoot from the floor up or at level. So there were elements with regards to that, and then balancing that out. The other element that was very important to me was leaving all of the raw sound, the dirt that normally would come off of a film. I wanted on there. I wanted, to hear the actor as he rubbed the chair. I wanted to hear his feet on the floor, even to the degree that when he would move and you would hear the ruffle of his shirt. I wanted to have those noises because to me they made it feel more alive, more present, and ultimately what I was shooting, even though it is a film, it's a film of a live stage play, and I wanted to have that live quality.
people around me. You stop nightmares by yelling so loud you wake yourself up.
It's frightening to shoot something that's this ambitious on such a small budget so quickly, because you really are trusting the director and the rest of the crew as well, but specifically the director, to not make you look foolish. You know, we would have time for 1 or maybe 2 takes for any given setup, and the setups would last 5 or 10 minutes at certain points. So you were performing it almost live. So you really did. I had to trust Rowan completely, and I do. And in a sense, it makes it easier because you don't have to sort of trying to sort of micromanage the situation isn't going to work. You just have to trust that I'm doing my job, they're doing their job, and hopefully something good comes out of it.
One of those beautiful scenes is when Joe is lying on the bench and on the Colorado River, and you watch the clouds below him of colored, suggestive of river water flowing below him. It's quite beautiful, and it's those moments that the horror and tragedy of the piece is equally balanced by the beauty of it, that I thought Rowan did really well. Artists have always been able to find that way of balancing the beauty with the horror of the piece, and I think they also did that very well.
The film, it's interesting, you know, people say, you know, what, you know, legacy or what do you hope to do with this film, or what do you hope happens with it? I've already certainly exceeded any expectation I would have. I mean, you know, the fact that the film was released in art houses and played in New York and San Francisco and all the different places it played is sort of beyond my wildest dreams. My hope was to basically end up with a film that would not only work now, but will work 5 years from now, 10 years, 15, 20 years, that will hold up as well as the book. I really worked very hard to try to give it a timeless quality, and I think we succeeded in that. I hope that we did. We'll certainly know in 10, 15 years from now.
What I hope is that this version of Johnny Got His Gun will, if nothing else, leave anyone who cares to watch it with a very specific, intimate take on the original source material, on the book. And that's the best we can hope for.
I won't let them do it! I won't let them win! I will not! 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times 11 is 11. 1 times 12 is 12. 1 times 13 is 13.